Welcome to Rathalos Watch. Today I am going to be talking about a Datamine leak that has happened earlier. There's some crazy stuff here in regards to returning monsters, and it essentially semi-confirms the previous Chinese leak that contained 11 returning monsters. Yes, I will also include all the sources in the description and pinned comment. In this video I will explain what exactly is data mining and what data miners have found in the game files of the PC version of Monster Hunter Wilds beta. So make sure you stick around from start to finish so you understand what is happening. This is the closest we will ever get to an official leak, as it comes straight from the game's files, or rather Capcom. If you're looking forward to Monster Hunter Wilds coverage or just Monster Hunter in general, then do not forget to subscribe with notifications turned on, and don't forget to join our Discord community. Link is in a pinned comment. Without further ado, let's begin. Okay, first and foremost, what exactly is a data mined leak, you might be asking? Data mining a video game means digging into the game's files to find hidden or unreleased information. This can include things like weapons, upcoming characters, items, levels, monsters, or story elements that are not available to players yet. Data miners use special tools to look at the game's code, often revealing details that developers haven't announced. It's like uncovering secrets in a game before they're officially shared. As you all know, the PC beta upload went up yesterday around 11 PM EST and 8 PM PST, and now it's on most people's computers. Information extraction usually is done through PCs because it's a lot easier to access certain types of files on a computer as opposed to something like the PS5 or Xbox Series X. As you can imagine, the data miners have gone to town trying to extract every bit of possible information to see if Capcom has left anything out in their strings of text or code across a variety of game files. So guess what? They tried to scrub most of it, but some stuff was still left over, and we are going to be talking about the leftovers, and let me tell you, they are juicy. Okay, let's get straight into this. Gypceros and Nerscylla both are mentioned in the datamine files and text strings, so I'm going to put them up on the screen here and read them off. I will also include a link to all of this data as well in the pinned comment, so you can have your own look with your own eyes on your own computer. This first line seems to be the in-game description of what Gypceros is. If you see the word string with no more words after it, that means it's a space for a new paragraph in the game. Okay, here we go. Gypceros, monsters that use their prominent crest to stun foes with disorienting flashes of light before finishing them off with poisonous saliva. Now here is a string with what seems to be a quest dialogue with an NPC, or simply just the quest description text talking about hunting Gypceros. Hunter, we received word of sightings of an identified monster. I'm told it flashes its prey with light and spews poison, which matches the description of a monster that the guild is quite familiar with. Apparently, it's often sighted when this region is in the season of fallow. Perhaps we should investigate. Clearly, this is a quest you can take on to hunt down Gypceros, and it seems to be mandatory. Also, we have learned that it only appears during the fallow season, but we do not know which region exactly, since the dialogue simply says this region. We know Gypceros usually hangs out in grasslands, forests, and jungles, marshlands, or swamps, and yes, his first encounter in Monster Hunter 4 is in the Sunken Hollow, which is equivalent to the oil well basin as I was talking about in my last video about Nerscylla. Anyways, it doesn't matter where he shows up really, since he is practically now confirmed indirectly through Capcom's own game data. Okay, we are going to take a look at the last line that mentions both Gypceros and Nerscylla in one sentence together. This seems to be a description for Gypceros crafting materials that you get after you slay him, carve him along with the quest rewards. Rubbery hide, elastic, electricity resistant hide worn by a Nerscylla, thought to be from another monster. Rubbery hide plus the quality hide of a Gypceros. The baggy, stretchy feel of it is oddly pleasing to the wearer. Here is another whole line of descriptions for Gypceros materials. It includes the head, tail, and certificate. Let's take a look. Gypceros head, the uniquely shaped head of a Gypceros, a must-have for Gypceros lovers. Gypceros tail, the tail of a Gypceros, the most pillant body part and thus the most difficult part to damage. Gypceros certificate S, a guild certificate awarded to those who have hunted a Gypceros, used to make equipment. While Nerscylla does not have her own description in the datamine files, the fact that her name is in his crafting materials description is speaking 1,000 words. It's basically an in-game confirmation and first ever official mention of her that's directly in the game itself. I highly doubt it's just for lore purposes and nothing else. And yes, in the beta you could get plus items that are normally reserved for high rank in previous titles, but with the new purple star strength system that seems to have been changed, and now you can get a mix of both low tier and high tier crafting mats. I've gotten plenty of plus items from Chotacabra during my testing in the Monster Hunter Wilds open beta test, so it's not surprising you can get both a rubbery hide and a rubbery hide plus from Gypceros. On top of that, every time I slayed a Chotacabra, I would always get the certificate item, so that seems to follow through with Gypceros certificate as well. Last but not least, his moveset is in the datamine as well. Here, take a look at these crazy strings. I'm not going to be writing out every line here, but basically it mentions sleep, poison, dash, flash, and tail whips. If that is not Gypceros, then I don't know what is. Absolutely fucking wild. Now let's talk about Gravios a bit and Gore Magala. If you are a veteran of Monster Hunter and you enjoy video game research and history, then you probably probably know what monster ID is. Essentially, every monster has an ID and a number that's tied to it, and that number is usually chronological in terms of when the monster was added. For example, Gypceros ID is EM009 because he was the 9th monster added in the game. Meanwhile, Gravios is EM005 for being the 5th monster in the game, and Gore Magala was EM071 because, you guessed it, he was the 71st monster added in the franchise. I've also included the entire monster ID Google sheet that you can find in the description and pinned comment on your own, and take a look at all of the updated monster IDs. Anyways, Gypceros, Gore Magala, and Gravios all had their monster ID spotted in the Datamine leak, and here they are on the screen for you. Now that we have all this information, let's quickly go back to the Chinese leak list of returning monsters and see what's going on now. The leak mentioned the following returning monsters ahead of their official reveals. Number 1, Yankutku. Number 2, Congalala. Number 3, Nerscylla. Number 4, Blongonga. Number 5, Gravios. Number 6, Gypceros. Number 7, Mitsune. Number 8, Gypceros. Number 9, Gore Magala / Magala. And number 10, Zinogre. And I think there was an 11th monster, I just don't remember who it was. The leaker also mentioned that both Mitsune and Zinogre are post-release monsters, meaning that they'll be introduced either in the title update or the expansion. He also mentioned that the frenzy mechanic is returning and that there will be ecological play with Gore Magala. So right now, I can confidently say that this leak so far is turning out to be true, despite the fact that Blongonga, Gravios, and Gypceros are not in the Datamine yet. Perhaps Capcom managed to scrub it out in time. The thing is, too many of the monsters are matching this leak, which makes it more feasible that it is indeed real. Yankutku, Congalala, and Gypceros are now 100% confirmed. Both of those were revealed, and Gypceros is now found in the game's files with full-on quest descriptions and crafting material descriptions. Nerscylla is semi-confirmed out of that list. Her name is also mentioned in the descriptions, and we did see spiderwebs in the oil well basin that I've talked about in my last video. Everything is lining up perfectly. Gore Magala also makes a ton of sense due to his frenzy mechanic, and Capcom recently mentioned in the 15-question interview that they want to bring back monsters that would make the gameplay interesting, and his frenzy mechanic perfectly lines up with the game design philosophy of Monster Hunter Wilds. I'm gonna call this semi-confirmed too, and also this means Gore Magala is also back because it's his adult version, and anytime Gore Magala showed up, Gore Magala would always follow, so both need to be included. There was no mention of Blongonga, Gypceros, or Gravios, which I found a bit odd, but I'm just going to assume that not all of the data was included in this build, and Capcom is hiding it. The point is that the Chinese leak is fucking close to being the real thing. Too many monster confirmations at this point, and too far in advance for the leak to be incorrect. Here are the rest of the monster IDs that were found in the Datamine. Any monster ID that is at 150 or above is a new monster for Monster Hunter Wilds. EM001 Rathian, EM005 Gravios, EM009 Gypceros, EM0021 Congalala, EM0070 Nerscylla, EM0071 Gore Magala, EM0150 Doshaguma, most likely due to liquid effects and super burst sound effects since he opens up his wounds. EM0151 Balahara, mentions of sand diving sound effects, mucus effects, and more. EM0152 Chotacabra because of mentioning the double enchant arm thing and a collapse. EM0153 no strings mentioned, unknown monster. EM0154 no strings mentioned, unknown monster. EM0156 mentions charging sound effects, railgun, and lightning, most likely Raid Out. EM0158 no strings mentioned, unknown monster. EM0160 no strings mentioned, unknown monster. EM0161 mentions ice breath and a landing shell. This might be the Switch Axe monster due to the mention of ice breath, and we know that the Switch Axe has an ice element when we watch the video. Absolutely insane stuff, guys. The Chinese leak is becoming more and more real, and the roster is starting to unveil itself slowly but surely. I cannot believe that Gypceros, Nerscylla, and Gore Magala are returning. These are dream returners. Last but not least, there are also some interesting strings for locales, so let's go over those real quick. As you can see in these images, you can see text such as desert, oil, and forest, but on top of that, there is a grave, priestess, and wall. I am going to assume these are some sort of locales that are either major or locales that we only visit for a bit for story purposes. The desert is obviously referring to the Windward Plains. The forest is the Scarlet Forest, and the word oil is referring to Oil Well Basin. But what are grave, priestess, and wall? Nothing in here sounds like it belongs to ice. Grave sounds something like sort of a endgame zone, or maybe it's an arena where you take on arena quests, or perhaps it's where you fight the final boss, or Arkweld, the flagship monster of Monster Hunter Wilds. I have no clue what the hell wall could be. Perhaps the full name is Frozen Wall, which would make it an ice locale? I'm literally just pulling out theories out of my butt right now. Regardless, interesting stuff. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section on these. In conclusion, my hype levels are through the roof right now, especially after playing the beta. Let me know what you all think of these crazy leaks and what has you excited or not so excited the most in the comment section. Stay tuned for more Monster Hunter Wilds content, and yes, I do have a blowout coming up for the Monster Hunter Wilds open beta, so look forward to that. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit like and subscribe with notifications turned on. Peace out and happy hunting.